Hi there, guys. I hope you're well. I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, and so 2026 awaits. So it's a really appropriate time for me to do an update video on Etch and what I think of Etch as a page builder for WordPress. Now, I did a video about 2 months ago, which it was my honest take at the time, but I would very much like to update this. And TLDR for the video is Etch is awesome, and certainly something you should be using in 2026 if you want to up your game professionally, increase your understanding, do better work, and understand the different processes that underpin web development and modern web development. Now, some people might regard that as quite a 180 to in terms of like my views on the original video. I would like to clarify that my original video, I felt that the code-based system was a step forward. I felt like it's a good way to move forwards. There were just some of the things around it that I was struggling with at the time. I consider them quite irrelevant now to the benefits that you get, not just from using Etch, but from the process of using Etch. You can't help but improve your web development processes and understanding. You can't help but wrestle with the core fundamentals of web design, and that can only improve excuse me, I've got a cold. That can only improve your entire process as a web developer. Also, it kind of pulls you from being web designer or web assembly artist, whatever you want to call it, to actually developing a website with more understanding. So yeah, I would like to. I'm now going to explain more in depth my views on Etch, what I've achieved with it so far, why I think that's important for web development. I will say that I've already just recorded a few tutorials on Etch, which I hope will help people with the little scratching head moments as you transition from page builders, as I have, which was mainly breakdance and bricks, but mainly breakdance and reluctant use of Elementor for older client sites. The transition from page builders is a difficult one because you are sort of swamped in like bad habits or just the way that it makes you do things. And there are some things that when you first start using Etch, you're going to be scratching your head. Now, the documentation for Etch is really fantastic. The community that you get access to when you purchase Etch is really fantastic. There's a lot there. And the live streams that Kevin Geary does on the Etch YouTube channel and on his own channel, they're really fantastic, but they're 2 to 3 hours long. And so a lot of these little, I need to know that, they're hidden in 2-hour videos, which they're great videos. But I thought, well, okay, I will, upload a collection of tutorials, just small, short, sharp, to the point. This is how you do this, or this is how I'm doing this. Everybody tell me if I'm wrong, So, okay, those tutorials are there. I've literally started to upload them before starting this video. So yeah, please have a look at them, and I hope they are helpful. My plan obviously is anytime I have to scratch my head and figure something out about Etch, I'm going to record it in a video, and hopefully that helps one person at least who's one step behind me. Cool. Sorry, I do have a cold. I've been glucking coffee to get me through. So I'm speaking very quickly. Right, okay, so Etch. Let's have a look at this. The first thing I did with Etch, obviously I installed on a blank site just to have a little look around, and very quickly I just realized I like to learn by doing, so I started to rebuild my own business coaching site. So this is the breakdance version of that site. It's it's a fine enough site. It's quite simple. There are some things on here that I struggled with the typical limitations of it. So I wanted this image to be right all the way on the right. But that really led to a difficulty here with percentage values. I'm going too in depth. I didn't mean to do that. So, building this in breakdowns, there were some things that I didn't really like, but it's a fine enough site, I suppose. But this is what I thought. Okay, I will redo this in Etch, and I've not completed that. It's been a learning project, but this is the site that I thought, okay, let's have a go with this. This is the Etch version. Now, again, it's not finished, obviously. Well, not obviously, hopefully. But this is the Etch version, and I think it looks better already. Something that you will notice from straight away is that the content width, just because there are better web development practices at play, which are intrinsic to the use of Etch, just for that alone, it looks better. You can see that it's all just perfectly in line, which is not something that I've really achieved so much in breakdance sites. That being said, my work in breakdance for client sites in the agency where I work is definitely improved, because I'm more in tune with modern and better web development practices, and that is only because I am in the Etch world. I'm re-engaging with all of that information and those practices, and as much as possible, I've been applying that to my work with breakdance and bricks. So it's been really good for that. Please ignore this. That was an example in one of the tutorial videos I mentioned. But as you can see, not even complete yet. Like, some things I have to just sort out. I've got loops coming through. The site is really nice and clean. I've got quite a unique header there. It's all, feeling quite fantastic. The site is snappy as hell. Like, I'm hardly clicking on it before the page is loaded up. Way faster as a human experience than anything from any builder that I've used recently. And that does include bricks, although I love bricks. But yeah, look at this. It's all just like really quite fantastic. This has not been as big a challenge as some people might think, to create all of these typical carousel loops and, or that's not a carousel, sorry, but all of this blog templating. I've got a full blog and article here, article system going on. It's really fantastic. And I'm just so pleased. I'm absolutely pleased. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. So anyway, that wasn't as what I really wanted to do so quickly was to show you how quickly it is to get a website together. You can redo a website with Etch, and it's not as daunting as it might seem. And I think that the results are far better than this breakdance website. I think this Etch website is cleaner, more consistent in its design, and it's just so much faster. So that's an overview thing of this has been a great experience. Let's actually look at Etch and some of the the features it promises and talk about that. So this one is really, really important. Full data liberation and simple client editing. Now, this bit alone is a huge factor. Because if you're using something like breakdance or Elementor, I don't even think it would work with Divi so well. But if you were using, say, breakdance or bricks, excuse me, when you've got a choice, really, you create a page or templates or something along those lines, and you have to make that decision early on. Are you going to template everything out, or are you going to and use custom fields for all the different bits of information? Or are you going to create every page quite uniquely, and then the client needs to have access to the builder? Now, in terms of breakdance, you can actually limit that to just the content, so they can sign into the site with a limited editor access, so they can't mess up the styling and go into advanced tabs and things like that. But there's a problem with that, is that the clients by rights, they should have an admin account to their for their website. And so when they're using that, you can't limit them to just be an editor panel in Breakdance anyway. So what that means is that technically, even though the functionality is there to lock clients out of style and advanced tabs, generally if they've got an admin account, which they have to by rights for their websites, they can access the full builder, and they do screw things up. But it's not just about that. It's that the great thing about Etch is that it does convert everything to the Gutenberg editor. So if I go into edit page here, we can see the page just in the editor. This is not an experience that you have with other page builders. Instead, what you'd see is something like a blank thing with a button there saying edit with Breakdance or whatever you might be using. Or it might say edit with Breakdance or use default editor. And the amount of clients that have reset all the styling for pages and then phoned up being like, bugger, because they hit default editor and it wiped out all of the styling, that happens quite often. Here in Etch, we don't have that problem. For one thing, we don't need to have all of the fields set out as you can see here. A lot of the time, if you've templated, clients have to go through and they fill out fields below the content, and they have to kind of understand where that would populate on the front of the page. Here we don't have that experience. They can literally come into the page and they can change the images. Here you could change the text. So let's helping very ambitious and save. Oh, that didn't work. That's because I'm on the wrong site. What a twat. Now I'll open this one. Helping very ambitious. There we are. All right, so let's do another change. Build excellent. Excellent. All right, so save that. Now we'll update this one. There we go. Right, you cannot tell me that isn't an easier update process for clients, so they can just go in and change the content. Now, this does worry me in some sense. I've got to be honest. Like, what else can they change? But they can't change anything about the styling or the spacing. They can only change the elements, or what you might call the properties and components. So all of this is the kind of editing power that clients insist that they want most of the time. And they can literally just come on in and change even the most complex aspects of their website. Look at how easy that is to do. Anything else really than light content changes should be something that you are maintaining a relationship with them for, so that they come to you for it. But this gives them superior editing ability, and it's visually pleasing as well. It's not a list of fields. I work with marketing teams who, I create lots of ACF fields and templates so that they can use that more easily. And it works for them, but their world looks like this. Whereas here, in Etch, you're able to just have them float through the entire page. It looks lovely as they do it. They shouldn't be able to edit that because that's a loop. But they would know where to go and edit that in the actual custom post type. So yeah, really, really, I think this is a complete game changer. It's a better editing experience for the clients. The rest is locked off. They could hit edit with Etch, but I think you can lock that down. I've not experimented with that. But the other thing that this really does is that there's not a custom field in sight for this entire page. There is no need to create a load of custom fields. Where's that interface gone? I don't know. There it is. Right. There's no need to create all of these fields and then add them to the custom post type. You just go in and you create your page, and then they can go in and they can change everything in this visual environment. That's simple. You don't need ACF anymore for like 90% of what you would have used it for. The only reason I can see that you would need ACF is for something like, oh, well, no, perhaps you wouldn't, but repeater fields. It depends on how you want to have information that they can loop through and create, but I would use repeater fields for FAQs. But just as I said that, I thought, well, to be honest, I could use a custom post type for FAQs and loop through that in a different way. So yeah, I don't think I need ACF at all, even for repeater fields or an options page, which James, the world's worst web developer, he did put an options page together without ACF. So yeah, the world is opening up with it, and that's really quite amazing. That's just this factor here. Sorry, right, going on a bit. I don't need to. Right, global structure and styling control. So create components with a single click, edit your components in line on the canvas, no magic areas, create and map props in seconds. Right, so I have just done a video on this if you don't understand what components are. And the reason I'm saying that is because other page builders, they use things like global templates or global blocks or templates, and that means that we're not understanding what components are, unless you've been using bricks where you use components and props. But I've never jumped onto a brick site from someone else and seen that components have been used, because they design with a page builder in mind, drag and drop, and it's usually not so globally minded. The thing that you get with Etch is that you have to create the selectors, and it's best then to style with variables, and you're just encouraged to learn the proper web development process, and where possible, anytime, create one source of truth and have everything leading to that, whether that's variables or whether that's using components as reusable chunks across the site, just to give all of that consistency. It really is quite fantastic. It encourages the best use of global structure and styling and one source of truth, which often seems to be a bit of an afterthought in other page builders. So even Breakdance, and I still, most of the client sites that I work with now are in Breakdance. I still find that even while I'm trying to apply everything I've learned in the last couple of months to Breakdance, the Breakdance environment, you can use variables, but it's 3 clicks down. You can try to be, creating styling on selectors, but it often does glitch up, and then you have to do it all again, or that there are just faults in the interface. So, yeah. What was I saying? Here, the from the ground up, the process is about global structure and global styling, which makes your work maintainable, reliable, and scalable. Loops in Etch are not confusing. They're just not confusing. Again, I have to refer to Breakdance, but Breakdance has a great UI for the loops, far superior to anything that Elementor has. Elementor has custom queries, but it's a confusing process. You have to go back between the actual page where you're setting up the custom query and into something like Fluent Snippets, and you're back and forth, and there are lots of errors because of the way that Elementor would handle the custom query. That's also the case with Breakdance. I've often been struggling with a simple query. So you can go into Breakdance. I should have signed into a Breakdance site to show you, but you can go into Breakdance and you don't have to use the UI. You can go to create a custom query from scratch, but it's the way that Breakdance handles the query often has you and AI working on it for 20 minutes because it passes something differently, or it doesn't pull it out in the way that it should. The process in Etch is it's the most basic it can be. I don't know how else to put it. It just, it starts you off with the query code. You understand that. You can tweak it and jump to AI if you need. And the copy and paste just always works. Whatever you're looking to achieve, you simply, let's edit with Etch. It'd be helpful if I find a loop. Yeah, this was one. Oh, there we are. Right, so we've got the loop here and we've got the arguments. This is all you need. It's so easy to play with. Whereas when you're in the user interface, when you're in the GUI for Breakdance or Elementor, there are things it lets you do. There are options that it has or doesn't have. But more than that, just the way that it sets it up, it falters quite often. I've not yet had anything falter because you just need to write it up and you can query anything that you want from say your service. You can literally just pull up any of these and add that into your loop, add that into your template. You have all of that with Breakdance, but it's behind a click system. And, if it's there, you have to be able to find it. Whereas this is just laid out in the most simple and basic way. I'll just quickly note with navigation. Again, this is as simple as using the native WordPress kind of appearance menus section. But yeah, it's just not intimidating as you might feel it would be. I did plan to be a bit more I did plan to be a bit more point to point with this, but I've just ended up just sort of going wow and yapping away. So I hope this is okay. I won't look at too much more, except to just have a look in. What else? Oh, AutoBem. Obviously, you can't really use Etch without learning about correct selector structure. Now, as far as possible, I've brought that into my Breakdance work, certainly into Brick's work. And I was ignorant to BEM before. But it's so empowering to have such organization to your site. So I'm going to do some videos on BEM and how to use that if you're not so familiar with it. Again, the organization of a website in Etch is completely focused on CPTs and custom fields native to it. The reason why that's good is because I don't find that everybody really uses custom fields, custom post types. But when it's all laid out there. You can see how easily you can get the scope of a website. It's also neat. It's not mixed up with the rest of the dashboard. But also, where was I trying to go? Templates. There we are. This is organized so well. This is almost as you might organize a project scope and quote. All your different custom post types, the fact that you would need to create a single page and an archive page. And again, it encourages as well the use of correct page creation. So this should be the top navigation page, and then it lists all the different posts within that. It's just so well organized. It encourages you to do it properly. I don't know if you've ever had websites handed to you from other developers, and you win a client and they've brought a website with them, and it takes you so long just to figure out the structure of it because these fundamentals weren't used. And of course that's going to be the case with even if you're a user of Etch. There's going to be websites that come in and they don't have the fundamentals all in place. But I think my point there really is the fact that if WordPress development is starting to take more notice of Etch and that direction, then it's pulling away from I'm going to say it, Aunt Carol and all of their sites, that it's setting the bar higher for professionalism. And that can only be a positive thing for the entire community and the businesses that are using WordPress. So Etch is the pioneer of a step back towards web design fundamentals and web development fundamentals. And while I agree with my older self of 2 months back that the struggle is going to be real, it's a good one. It's a positive one. It's one that we should be part of and encouraging. So yeah, all of this is true. I've not played with all of this, but I've experimented with that. So I've created a site. It's been a great experience. I can only rave about it, to be honest. But it is necessary to address some of the issues of transitioning to the use of Etch. I work in a few different capacities. I work with designers on a freelance or collaboration basis. I run a web department for a marketing company, and I've just brought them more over to breakdance to get away from Elementor, which they were using before I came along 3 years ago. And yeah, where does Etch stand now? Technically, at this point, it's gone so far, but it's not even at the proper sort of like production release. I don't think that we can, unless the client is informed of its status. I don't think we can really use it on client production sites. Certainly not for main local business clients, although I have no problem with using it for my own or anyone that's informed of it, because I have such faith in it. So even as it stands now, I think it's head and shoulders above the rest, if I'm honest. But just, until Etch themselves are saying, yeah, it's absolutely fine, it's secure, it's robust, blah, blah, blah. I understand that there's a lot of hesitation to say, yep, we're ready, go for client sites. Until that point, I think is a case of, holding back a little bit. But, it's exciting. I would love to approach clients and be like, hey, this is the great one to build it with. We have to address time. Does it take longer to build a website with Etch? I have to say yes, but of course part of that is the learning curve that is taking place. So, I think I see it a lot in the Etch community, that there are lots of people who, myself included, I used to code websites from scratch. I used to create my own templates in Joomla, and sort out different things there, or create my own extensions. But that was, it felt like years ago. And CSS alone, it's been quite a thing to catch up with all the advancements in CSS. The last time I created a grid in a grid in CSS was like 3.5 years ago for a job interview, and looped through it. That was in the WordPress environment, just to do it really. But it's moved on since then. And a lot of people who are starting to wrestle with the Etch community are face to face with the fact that they've forgotten how to code, or style with CSS. Would you call CSS code? Coding. I never did. I thought coding started with JavaScript personally, but HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it's incredibly in depth. It's moved on a lot, and there is that initial learning curve to get back to web design fundamentals or web development fundamentals, and start to make that intuitive. That being said, I feel like I could do a good version of a site in 20 hours easily with Etch. I think 10 to 20 hours for a website production, start to finish, and it can only get faster from that point, because you've created all of your globals, you've created all of your initial design decisions, you've taken that directly from the brand identity Bible or whatever you call it, and you are just ready to go. So I think that the initial development with Etch is maybe a bit, might take a little bit longer, but we're all only going to get faster with that process. To be honest, in a lot of agency work that I've been around in, I feel like there's always a rush on the job now. I would like to talk about this in a different video, but because in my look at Etch 2 months ago, part of my not beef with Etch, but part of my problem was that I felt nudged out of code because Wix and Squarespace and Shopify came along, and the market, the clients, changed what they were looking for. They were looking for sites that they could edit or fuck up themselves, and so that was kind of like pushed onto those that were providing web design services. So it became a bit of an issue, really, that everyone wanted Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, or Page Builders, visual drag and drop in the WordPress environment. And part of my opposition to Etch was just that the market wants the quick, fast drag and drop page builder, Elementor, breakdance. In turn, the agencies want that cheap, fast, knock it out kind of template solution for generally local business. There's lots to say there, to be honest. And I would agree with Kevin Geary and the Etch team that making something faster doesn't make it better. Probably quite the opposite. You're going to end up losing that time later down the road because you didn't build with global fundamentals like you should have. And so you'll make that up later when you're copying and pasting design styles across 100 elements on a site. I agree with all of that. I see that there is a struggle to try and make that transition from someone in my position in agencies. For my own agency work, I have my own agency identity, and I collaborate with designers and stuff. My own work, I would push Etch as the primary at this point. But there's a lot of work out there for someone like me, and it's agency led, which is market led, and everyone just loves Squarespace and Wix. I agree, they're shit sites as well, and they don't properly serve you. So yeah, there's some thought around that needs to be done. The other thing that I really had a problem with at the time was the pricing, but it was just the pricing at the time, and it was before their main release. The the fact that you can now actually purchase a one website Etch license is all I needed to know. One, so that you could go and have a go at it yourself if you wanted to. I was just opposed at the time, although I did do it in the end, for having to spend $4.99 for the lifetime deal, just in case I didn't want it. But that was a stupid thing for me to say, and I will be honest about that. My feeling was that yes, it makes it less than $34 per site. But that's if you use them. What if I don't want to, but it's kind of a silly argument, and I'm sorry that I made it. So $4.99 for 15 sites, that's pretty darn cool, to be honest. But then, of course, when a client decides they want to leave, you need to be able to give them a license for themselves. And so you need it in your terms and conditions. If they buzz off, they need their own license, they can get that for $99, and off they trot. So it was just about the ability to hand a site over to a client when they decide that they are done with you. And yeah, I think that's something that I was addressing in the last video. So the pricing is just absolutely fair. This is absolutely awesome. That comes with WooCommerce integration as well, should you need it. You couldn't argue with that, really. And then, of course, you've got all of these features, which every one of them, I feel that they do stand up to their promise on it. It really does have huge benefits, and it's going to improve that workflow that you have in web development anyway. Right, okay, cool. I'm aware that I yapped on about this in a way that I didn't really intend to. I did have a more structured plan, And I just ended up yapping anyway. So maybe I have to review this video and see if I post it. But I suppose I'm quite glad that the video is really of me just gushing on Etch, and not just on Etch, but just but also on the web development fundamentals and the community, and the way it's all about getting back to being professional. And in that sense, I'm a little bit like, where the fuck have I been? Where have I been? Just to give some context there, when I left Joomla because it just wasn't working out for me, but I was more code based there. And then I left web design really for a good year. But when I came back, it was all WordPress. And at that point, it was all Elementor. And of course, that's then just the world that I stepped into. It was all about Wix, Squarespace, or Shopify, or Elementor within WordPress. And it just became the world that I knew and that I was in. But this working within Etch, wrestling with web design fundamentals and how to properly do something, having a reason to check out this year's CSS updates and go, okay, how can I bring that into my projects? Because you can't really do that in page builders. It's a reason to really stay on trend and stay up to date. It's a reason to be part of the web development community and upskill yourself. And all of that is just ground up, encouraged in Etch and the community. I think I mentioned it earlier, but just since I've been getting more into the videos about all of this, learning BEM, learning more recent CSS styling methods, such as staying on selectors and styling on selectors, and keeping everything as global as you can, and using variables and design tokens. Just how that has impacted my work in bricks and breakdance. I've seen a huge improvement in my layouts, in the consistency, in the visual design, the feeling of the sites. And so again, that's just about me getting back in touch with how to do something properly, how to be a professional. Now, if sometimes I'm using lesser tools like breakdance or like bricks, which I still love both of them for their own reasons, if I'm still using those, I have improved my professionalism and my awareness and how I would approach a project and begin a project, ground up, lay the foundations, one source of truth, variables, design tokens. How can I implement that to the best of my ability using the tools that I have? That alone has been an offshoot of my use of Etch. But of course, if I'm now going to identify the tool that most easily lets me, if I'm going to identify the tool that is the best playground, the best place that I can utilize all of that knowledge, there we are. Etch is obviously that tool. So yeah, 2 thumbs up for Etch, and 8 fingers. Hey. So thank you, Kevin Geary and the Etch team, for all of the education stuff that's around in the community, in the videos. Thank you for being gracious in terms of any comments on my previous video. Utterly sorry, completely sorry for any offense. Never really meant it to be that. That was my take at the time. And I guess that's part of the struggle that Etch has faced, which is, hey, can we do something better? Can we do something that invests more in the future? And the struggle that came with that. And so I applaud the effort. I applaud the outcome. And I'm thankful to be part of it. Really great tool. Go and get Etch 2026. Let's learn to do things properly and use the appropriate tools for that. Just another reminder then, I have created a range of tutorials to help you with Etch, the things that I was struggling with in that transition. I will continue to keep that updated anytime I'm going, how the hell do I do that? I'll make a video so that it helps someone who's also struggling with it. And all of those videos are open for the comments to be like, oh, that's fine, you've got a workaround, but here's another way to do it, and I think is better. Like, I love those comments. Yeah, really enjoying learning, really open to learning. Yeah, let's go on for 2026 with that attitude. Cool. Right. Thank you very much. I'll catch you later. Happy New Year.